A young woman runs from a life of luxury she never chose, searching for peace on a lonely highway. But fate has a surprise in store when her car breaks down at the exact spot where it all began. There, a face from her past reappears, with no idea who she is. And this silent reunion will change the course of their lives forever. If this story caught your interest, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell us what city you're watching from. And now, on with the story. The highway cutting through upstate New York seemed to stretch on forever. Haley had been driving for hours, her eyes fixed on the hot asphalt shimmering under the late afternoon sky. Beside her, on the passenger seat, sat a small suitcase and a simple purse. Nothing more. Nothing that would reveal who she really was. Nothing that would give away the Caldwell name, stamped on dealerships and auto plants all across the country. She had run away. There was no other word for it. Run away from the lavish New York City penthouse, the endless meetings, the empty dinner parties where everyone smiled but no one truly cared. Run. Away from the fiancé her parents had chosen, a cold businessman who saw her as nothing more than a strategic alliance. Run away from a life that looked perfect on the outside, but was suffocating her like a dress that was 2 sizes too small. The car's engine started making a strange noise. Haley frowned, slowing down. This wasn't good. She knew cars better than most people. She'd grown up surrounded by engines and chassis, but this was an old model she'd bought in secret, without using the corporate card, without leaving a trail. A faded blue VW Beetle, the kind of car no one would ever associate with the heiress of Caldwell Motors. The noise got worse. Smoke began to billow from the hood. Haley cursed under her breath and pulled over into an abandoned rest stop, an old gas station that had long since closed its doors. The rusted pumps looked like ghosts from a time that was never coming back. She got out of the car and looked around. Nothing, just the empty road, the warm country wind, and a sense of loneliness that strangely comforted her. She grabbed her phone. No signal, of course. She was in the middle of nowhere, exactly where she wanted to be. Or at least that's what she'd thought until her car decided to break down. Haley walked to the front of the abandoned station and sat on a wooden bench, weathered by time. There was something familiar about this place, something that poked at her memory like a forgotten song that suddenly comes to mind. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. The smell of the earth, the sound of birds, the heavy silence of the countryside. It was like stepping back in time. That's when she heard the sound of an approaching engine. She opened her eyes to see an old red dusty pickup truck pulling up next to her Beetle. A man got out, tall, dark-haired, wearing a worn-out t-shirt and faded jeans. There was a weariness in his movements, but also a natural kindness. Peter looked at the smoking Beetle and then at the woman sitting on the bench. She was wearing simple clothes, a light cotton dress and flat sandals, but there was something about her that caught his eye. Maybe it was her eyes green and deep. Maybe it was her posture straight and proud even, in the face of trouble. He couldn't say. "Hey," he said, walking closer. "Looks like you're in trouble." Haley managed a tired smile. "Yeah, my car decided it was time for a forced pit stop." Peter glanced at the hood, still letting off smoke. "I can take a look if you want. I own a garage in town." She hesitated for a second. Accepting help from strangers wasn't part of her world. But this wasn't her world anymore, was it? She'd run away precisely to escape those rules. "I'd really appreciate that," she said, standing up. Peter popped the hood of the Beetle and examined the engine with the expertise of someone who'd been doing this for years. Haley watched his hands, calloused and stained with grease, but precise and careful. There was something comforting in his gestures. "Your radiator's shot," he said after a few minutes, "and you've got a problem with the cooling system. Can't fix it here. You're going to need a tow." Haley sighed. "How long would that take?" Peter scratched the back of his neck, thinking. "A couple, 3 days, depends on the parts, but look, it's getting late. The nearest town is Franklin, about 20 minutes from here. I can give you a ride there if you like. I'll come back for your car first thing in the morning and tow it to my shop." Haley looked at him, sizing him up. There was sincerity in his brown eyes, a sincerity she'd forgotten existed. "Okay," she said finally. "Thanks for the help." They got into the pickup. In the back seat, Haley noticed a few scattered toys, a teddy bear, and a pink kid's backpack. Peter caught her glance. "I have a daughter," he explained, starting the engine. "Laura, she's 7. "That's a great age," Haley commented, settling into the seat. "Yeah," Peter said with a half smile. "She's too smart for her own good. Sometimes I think she understands the world better than I do." They drove down the road in silence for a few minutes. Haley watched the landscape through the window. Fields, a few scattered houses, a store here and there. And then she started to recognize it. That curve in the road, that lone tree in the middle of a pasture, the steeple of a church in the distance. Her heart started to pound. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be. "You said, Franklin?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "Yep," Peter said. "That's where I live. You know it." Haley took a deep breath. "I've been here before, a long time ago, when I was a kid." "Oh yeah?" he said, interested. "Lived here?" "For a while," she answered vaguely. "My family had some business in the area." A lie. Her family never had business in Franklin. She had come because her paternal grandparents lived here. She'd spent entire summers on their farm, running barefoot, climbing trees, just being a girl. Before everything changed. Before her grandparents died. Before her parents took her back to New York City and decided she needed to be molded into a true Caldwell. The town began to appear on the horizon. Franklin. 23 years later, Haley was back. And the most ironic part was that the man beside her, the one kindly offering a ride to a stranger, had no idea who she was. He didn't recognize the adult woman as the little girl who had once played in the same places he had, because Peter had grown up here too. She remembered him. Of course she remembered. The skinny boy with messy hair, who shared afternoons with her at the town square playground. The boy who hid notes in a tree behind that abandoned gas station. The first real friend she ever had. But he didn't remember her. Or rather, he didn't recognize her. And Haley decided, right then and there, that she wouldn't reveal who she was. Not yet. Maybe never. She just wanted to live, without the weight of her last name, without the expectations, without the masks. "Do you have a place you're staying?" Peter asked, breaking into her thoughts. "Not yet," Haley admitted. "I was going to look for a inn. There's the Flower Inn on 15th Street, he said. "It's simple, but it's clean, and Mrs. Evans, the owner, is a sweet lady. I can drop you there." "That would be great, thank you." They drove into town. The streets seemed frozen in time. The same houses, the same trees, the same town square with its white gazebo. Haley felt a tightness in her chest. So many memories, so many things she had buried deep inside. Peter parked in front of the inn. "Here we are," he said. Haley got out of the truck, but before closing the door, she turned to him. "Thank you so much for the help. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along." "Don't mention it," Peter said, smiling. "It's what we do around here. I'll get your car tomorrow and let you know when it's ready, okay? What's your name, by the way?" Haley hesitated for a fraction of a second. Haley. Haley Smith. Another fake last name. Another layer of protection between who she was and who she wanted to be. "Nice to meet you, Haley. I'm Peter Miller. My garage is at 458 Main Street. If you need anything, just stop by." She nodded, watching him drive away. Then she went into the inn where Mrs. Evans welcomed her with typical small-town hospitality. A simple, clean room that smelled of lavender, a double bed with a crocheted quilt, a window that looked out onto the town square. Haley lay down on the bed without even taking off her shoes. She was back in the only place she had ever been truly happy, back in the place where she had left pieces of herself. And the most surprising thing of all was that the boy, from the notes, the boy of promises sealed with stars, was here. He lived here. He was a man now with worry lines around his eyes and a weariness she recognized all too well. She picked up her purse and took out a small metal box. She opened it carefully. Inside, folded and yellowed with time, were the notes, all the notes he had left for her in that tree behind the gas station, each one sealed with a star drawn in pencil. She had kept them all. She had carried those scraps of paper for 23 years, as if they were lucky charms. And now she was back. She didn't know what she would do yet. She didn't know if she should tell the truth. But she knew, with absolute certainty, that it wasn't a coincidence that her car had broken down in that exact spot. Some things, she thought, aren't coincidences. They're destiny. Haley closed her eyes, clutching one of the notes to her chest. Tomorrow would be a new day. Tomorrow she would start to rebuild something she wasn't even sure was still possible. But for the first time in years she felt something like hope. And that was already more than she'd had when she left New York City that morning. On the other side of town, Peter arrived home. A small house painted yellow, with a yard where Laura played. He went inside and found his daughter drawing at the kitchen table, while their neighbor, Mrs. Davis, was making dinner. "Hi, Daddy," Laura said, running to hug him. "Hey, sweetie," he said, lifting her into his arms. "How was your day?" "Good. I drew a lot. Look, I made a picture of you." She showed him the paper, a tall man with black hair and a big smile. Next to him, a little girl with long hair, and next to the girl, an empty space. "Who else is going to be in the picture?" Peter asked, pointing to the space. Laura shrugged. "I don't know yet, Daddy, but someone's missing, right?" Peter looked at the drawing, at that empty space, and felt a strange pang in his chest, as if his daughter knew something he didn't, as if she could see things that adults couldn't. Later, after Laura was asleep, Peter sat on the porch and looked up at the stars. He thought about the woman he'd helped today, Haley. There was something about her that intrigued him, something familiar yet distant, like a melody he knew but couldn't remember the lyrics to. He shook his head. He was tired. It was just the jumbled thoughts of a long day. Tomorrow he'd fix her car, and that would be that. She was just another customer passing through town. But deep down, a part of him knew it wasn't that simple. A part of him sensed that Haley's arrival meant more than just a broken-down car on a deserted road. It meant something was about to change. Something big. Something inevitable. And when Peter finally went to sleep that night, he dreamed of notes hidden in a tree and a girl with green eyes who swore she would never forget him. He woke up without remembering the dream, but with a strange feeling in his chest, as if the past somehow had come back to collect on old promises. Are you enjoying this story? Tell me what you think, and how you think it will end. The morning sun streamed through the inn's window, waking Haley with its gentle light. She got up, still feeling the emotional weight of being back in this place. She had a simple breakfast served by Mrs. Evans, who chatted animatedly about the town, the neighbors, the local news. Haley listened intently, soaking in every detail of the simple life she craved. After breakfast, she decided to walk around town. Her legs carried her automatically to the town square. The white gazebo was still there, exactly as she remembered. The wooden benches under the leafy trees, the playground where she used to play with Peter. She sat on one of the swings, pushing off gently with her feet. She closed her eyes, and for an instant, she was that 8-year-old girl again, without a care in the world, without a mask, just living. "You like the swings, too?" The childish voice startled her. Haley opened her eyes and saw a little girl with brown hair in 2 braids, curious eyes, and a smile that lit up her face. She was wearing a pink floral dress and holding a sketchbook. "I do," Haley replied, smiling. "And you?" "I love them," the girl said, sitting on the swing next to her. "My daddy says I could spend all day here. I'm Laura." Haley's heart skipped a beat. Peter's daughter. Of course. "Nice to meet you, Laura. I'm Haley." "You're new in town, right?" Laura asked with the frankness typical of children. "I've never seen you before." "I am. My car broke down yesterday and your dad helped me." Laura's eyes lit up. "My daddy is the best mechanic in Franklin. He can fix anything. One time he fixed my doll when her arm broke. He said he wasn't a doll doctor, but he managed to glue it back on." Haley laughed. "That proves he's really good." They swung in silence for a few minutes. Laura watched her with an intensity only children possess, as if she could see beyond appearances. "You look sad," Laura said suddenly. Haley was taken aback. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Your eyes look sad, even when you smile. My mummy had eyes like that too before she left. Haley felt a pang in her chest. I'm sorry to hear that. Laura shrugged, with a maturity that didn't match her age. It's okay. Daddy says sometimes people have to go away to find themselves, but I think my mummy just got more lost. Before Haley could respond, they heard footsteps approaching. It was Peter, a worried expression on his face that turned to relief when he saw his daughter. Laura, you can't just run off like that without telling anyone. Mrs. Davis was worried sick. Sorry, Daddy. I just came to the playground. Peter then noticed Haley. Oh, hey, I didn't realize you'd already met my daughter. We just met, Haley said, getting off the swing. She's adorable. Laura beamed with pride. Daddy, can Haley have lunch with us today? Peter looked uncomfortable. Laura, Haley probably has her own plans. Actually, Haley said, surprising herself with her own boldness. I'd love that. If it's not an imposition, of course. Peter looked at her, then at his daughter, who was making a face that said she'd already made up her mind. Of course it's not, he said finally. We'd be happy to have you. And that's how Haley found herself walking into Peter Miller's yellow house. It was small, modest, but there was something welcoming about the place. Pictures of Laura were scattered on the walls, her drawings held to the fridge with magnets, a worn but comfortable couch. It was a house that breathed life even with its imperfections. Laura insisted on showing Haley everything, her room, her toys, her drawings, and Haley found herself genuinely interested, asking questions, giving compliments, laughing at the stories the little girl told. Meanwhile, Peter was in the kitchen preparing a simple lunch, chicken, rice, and a salad. Nothing fancy, but made with care. Haley offered to help, but he politely declined, saying it was almost ready. The three of them sat at the table. Laura chattered non-stop, telling them about school, her friends, her adventures. Peter watched his daughter and Haley talk, and there was something strange about the scene, something that felt right, as if the empty chair at the table had always been waiting for someone. After lunch, Laura asked to show Haley her dad's garage. Peter hesitated, but the girl was insistent, and Haley said she'd love to see it. So the three of them walked to Main Street, to Miller's Auto Repair. It was small, with just 2 service bays, tools organized on the walls, and the smell of oil and metal. But there was a sense of care there, a dedication visible in every detail. Peter clearly loved what he did. This is my sanctuary, he said, showing her around. This is where I can think, you know. It's like every engine I fix is a puzzle that needs to be solved. Haley walked through the garage, touching the tools, taking it all in. I get it completely, she said. There's something therapeutic about fixing broken things. Peter looked at her curiously. You know about mechanics? A little, Haley replied, remembering to keep her story simple. My grandpa liked to tinker with cars. I used to watch him. It wasn't a lie. Her paternal grandfather really did. He was the one who had planted the love of engines in her before the family decided it wasn't proper behavior for a Caldwell. Look, Peter said, pointing to a corner of the garage. There's your Beetle. I'm going to start working on it this afternoon. If all goes well, it should be ready by tomorrow. Haley nodded, but a part of her didn't want the car to be ready so soon. She didn't want to have to make decisions. She didn't want to have to leave. Just then, the garage door flew open. A woman walked in, tall, thin, with tight clothes and a hard expression on her face. Her eyes immediately found Laura. Laura, what are you doing here? You were supposed to be with me today. Laura shrank a little. The girl who moments ago was pure joy now seemed smaller, scared. Jessica, Peter said, and there was tension in his voice. You didn't say you were coming today. I don't need to make an appointment to see my own daughter, the woman retorted. Haley immediately understood the dynamic. This was the ex-wife. Laura's mother, who had left, but was now back with intentions that didn't seem the purest. Jessica finally noticed Haley. And who are you? Haley Smith, she answered calmly. I'm just a customer. Jessica looked her up and down, with the kind of look women use when they're assessing a potential threat. How convenient, she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Peter making friends with the customers. "Jessica, don't," Peter said in a warning tone. "What?" she shot back. "I'm not allowed to be concerned about the company my daughter keeps." "Our daughter," Peter corrected, "and you weren't so concerned when you left." Jessica's lips tightened. "I already explained. I needed time. I was confused. But I'm back now and I want to be part of Laura's life." Laura moved closer to her father, holding his hand. "Daddy, I don't want to go." Peter knelt down to his daughter's level. "Sweetie, you need to spend time with your mum too. It's important." "But I don't want to," the girl repeated, tears starting to well up. Hayley watched it all with a heavy heart. She saw the conflict on Peter's face, the fear on Laura's, the coldness on Jessica's. This was not a simple situation. "Laura, let's go," Jessica said, holding out her hand. "Ryan is waiting for me outside. He wants to get to know you better." "Who's Ryan?" Laura asked suspiciously. "He's your mom's boyfriend," Peter explained with difficulty. "Remember I told you about him?" Laura shook her head no. She was scared, that much was clear, and Hayley couldn't just stand by and watch. "Excuse me," she said, surprising everyone. "Maybe it's not my place to say, but the girl is clearly uncomfortable. Maybe it would be better to start slow, with short visits, so she can get used to it again." Jessica whirled on her, anger flashing in her eyes. "You have no place to say anything about my daughter. You know nothing about this situation." "You're right," Hayley said, keeping her cool. "I don't. But I know a scared child when I see one." Peter stepped in before things could escalate. "Jessica, Hayley's right. Laura needs time. How about you come for dinner tomorrow? Just you, without Ryan yet. Laura needs to get used to you first." Jessica looked at Peter, then at Laura, then at Hayley. Her eyes narrowed. "Fine," she said finally. "But this is temporary. I have rights." "No one's saying you don't," Peter replied. Jessica stormed out of the garage, slamming the door. Through the glass they saw a tall man in sunglasses with a rigid posture, waiting next to an expensive imported car. Ryan, presumably. Laura hugged her father, crying silently. Peter comforted her, stroking her hair. "It's okay, sweetie. It's okay." Hayley felt she should leave, give them their privacy. But Laura reached a hand out to her. "Don't go," the girl pleaded. And Hayley stayed. She stayed because she couldn't leave. She stayed because somehow, in that moment, these two people she barely knew already meant something to her. Later, when Laura was calmer, they left the garage. Peter locked up, and the three of them walked back to the yellow house. Mrs. Davis came over, worried about Laura, and Peter reassured her. Hayley said her goodbyes at the door, but Peter gently took her arm. "Thank you," he said, "for staying, for speaking up. You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she replied simply. They looked at each other for a moment that seemed to last longer than it actually did. There was something there, a connection neither of them fully understood yet, as if two souls who had known each other for a long time were finally recognizing one another. "Hayley," Peter said, hesitating, "do you want to have dinner here tomorrow before Jessica arrives? Laura would love it." "And you?" Hayley asked, before she could stop herself. Peter smiled, a tired but genuine smile. "I'd love it too." "Then it's a date," she said. Hayley walked back to the inn with her heart racing. What was she doing? She was getting involved, getting attached, forming bonds that would be painful to break when the truth came out. And the truth always came out, but when she lay in bed that night, clutching the metal box with the old notes, Hayley allowed herself to dream that maybe, just maybe, she could have this life, this yellow house, this good man, this sweet little girl. To dream that maybe it wasn't too late to rewrite her story, to turn childhood promises into adult reality, to finally find a place where she could just be Hayley, not the heiress, not the businesswoman, just a woman trying to rebuild something she thought she had lost forever. And on the other side of town, Peter couldn't sleep either. He thought about Hayley, about the green eyes that seemed to hold so many secrets. He thought about how Laura had connected with her instantly, something that had never happened with anyone since Jessica left. He also thought about that strange dream he'd had the night before. The girl with green eyes, the notes in the tree, the promises sealed with stars. Was he going crazy? Or was there something bigger happening here, something his rational mind refused to accept, but his heart already knew was true? He fell asleep without answers, but with the certainty that his life had changed the moment he saw that woman sitting on the bench at the abandoned gas station, and that no matter how much he tried to fight it, he was already being pulled into a story that had started long before yesterday. A story that, perhaps, had never really ended. The following days in Franklin passed like a dream for Haley. She found herself more and more involved in Peter and Laura's life, taking part in small moments that might seem insignificant to others, but to her, they were everything. Simple dinners at the kitchen table, walks to the town square, visits to the garage where she discreetly showed a knowledge of engines that impressed Peter. The Beetle could have been ready in 2 days, but Haley always found an excuse to prolong the repair. A part that needed to be special ordered. An adjustment that wasn't quite perfect. Peter didn't question it much, and she was sure he wasn't in a hurry to see her leave either. Laura had become her shadow. The girl sought her out every day, wanting to show her drawings, tell her stories, ask for advice on things a 7-year-old found important. And Haley found herself responding with a patience and affection she didn't know she possessed. It was as if Laura had unlocked a part of her that had been sealed away for years. On a Thursday afternoon, Haley was in the garage helping Peter organize tools when Jessica showed up again. This time, she wasn't alone. The man, Ryan, was with her. He was exactly the type of man Haley knew well from her world. Impeccable suit, expensive watch, that barely disguised air of superiority. He looked around the garage with obvious disdain. "So this is where you work, Peter," Jessica said in a tone that made it clear what she thought of the place. "This is where I make an honest living," Peter replied, keeping his cool. Ryan ran a hand over the workbench and examined his fingers as if he'd touched something filthy. "Interesting," he muttered. Haley felt a surge of anger. Anger at people like this man, who judged others by their appearance, their money, their status. People like she used to be, before she realized how empty it all was. "I've come to get Laura for the weekend," Jessica announced. "I've spoken with my lawyer and I have the right to have my daughter with me." Peter clenched his fists. "Laura barely knows you now, Jessica. You can't just demand an entire weekend." "Yes, I can. I'm her mother." That's when Haley noticed Laura hiding behind a stack of tires, watching everything with those frightened eyes. The girl had come to the garage after school, as she did every day, and was now witnessing this argument. "Laura, come here," Jessica called, spotting her daughter. The girl didn't move. Haley went over to her and knelt down. "Want me to stay with you?" she whispered. Laura nodded, clinging to Haley's arm. Jessica saw the scene and her expression hardened even more. "Who do you think you are?" she said to Haley. "I'm her mother." "No one is saying otherwise," Haley replied calmly, "but Laura is clearly uncomfortable. Maybe it would be better to start with a few hours, not a whole weekend." "You have nothing to do with this," Ryan intervened. "This is a family matter." Haley was about to respond, but Peter cut in. "She's right," he said. "Jessica, you were gone for almost a year. Laura needs time to reconnect with you. How about we start with lunches together, on the weekends here in town where Laura feels safe?" Jessica looked at her ex-husband, then at her daughter clinging to a stranger, then at Ryan, who was clearly getting impatient. "Fine," she said finally, "but I want to see progress. And you," she said, pointing at Haley, "stay away from my family." After they left, Peter collapsed into a chair, rubbing his face with his hands. "Sorry about that," he said to Haley. "You have nothing to be sorry for." Laura came out from her hiding spot and ran to her father. "Daddy, I don't want to go with her. She doesn't really love me." "Sweetie, don't say that." "But it's true," the girl insisted, tears streaming down her face. "She only came back because Ryan told her to. I heard them talking. He said a woman with a kid is more trustworthy, that it looks good for his business." Peter and Haley exchanged a shocked look. If that was true, Jessica was using her own daughter as part of an image she wanted to build with her new boyfriend. Laura, Haley said softly, taking the girl's hand. Sometimes adults make bad choices, but that doesn't mean you're not loved. Your dad loves you more than anything in this world. And you? Laura asked with that childish frankness. Do you love me? Haley felt a lump in her throat. I care about you very much, she answered honestly. That's almost the same thing, Laura said, hugging her. That night, after taking Laura home and putting her to bed, Peter invited Haley to have coffee on the porch. They sat side by side, watching the quiet night of the small town. You know, Peter said, I never imagined my life would be like this. When I married Jessica, I really thought it would work out, but she always wanted more. More money, more status, more of everything, and I could never be enough. You are more than enough, Haley said. The problem wasn't with you. How can you be so sure? Because I see how you are with Laura, how you work hard, how you treat people with respect. That's worth more than any bank account. Peter gave a humorless laugh. You talk like you know that world of money and status pretty well. Haley froze for a second. Let's just say, I've known people like that, and I learned that money doesn't buy happiness. They sat in silence for a moment, just listening to the crickets and the wind in the trees. Then Peter spoke, almost as if he were thinking aloud. You know, something strange has been happening to me since you arrived. What? I've been dreaming about my childhood, about a girl who used to play with me when I was a kid. We had a secret tree behind the old gas station on the highway. We used to hide notes there, sealed with drawn-on stars. Haley could barely breathe. He was remembering. And then, she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. And then one day, she just disappeared, never came back. I waited for weeks, months. I left notes in the tree, but she never answered. I was just a kid, but that loss stuck with me. It was the first time I felt what it was like to lose someone important. Haley had to swallow back tears. What would you do if you met that girl today? Peter thought for a long moment. I don't know. I guess I'd ask her why she left, why she didn't say goodbye. But I also think I'd understand. We were kids. Life happens. People move on. What if she never moved on? Haley asked quietly. What if she kept every single note you ever wrote? What if she came back because she could never forget? Peter turned to her, really looking at her for the first time since they started talking. There was something in the way her eyes shone in the porch light, something familiar. Haley, he began, but was cut off by Laura crying out from inside. Nightmare, he said, getting up quickly. Haley was left alone on the porch, trembling. She had been so close to telling the truth, so close to lifting the weight she carried, but something had stopped her. Fear, maybe. Fear that the truth would destroy what was building between them. She decided to walk back to the inn, but on the way, without really thinking, her feet led her to that highway, to the abandoned gas station, to the tree that stood behind it. The tree was still there, old and gnarled. Haley approached it, running her hand over the rough bark. There was a hollow at the base, half hidden by roots, the secret hiding spot. She knelt and reached her hand inside. She expected to find the hollow, empty after so many years, but her fingers touched something, paper. With trembling hands, she pulled out several yellowed, folded pieces of paper, notes, all sealed with drawn-on stars. She opened them one by one, under the light of her phone. Each one was from Peter to her. Notes he had left after she was gone, asking where she was, saying he missed her, asking her to come back. The last one was dated, in a child's handwriting, January 15th, a month after she had left. I guess you're not coming back. My parents said your family moved far away. I wish I could have said goodbye. I wish I could have told you that you were my best friend, that I would remember you forever. I'm leaving this note here, even though I know you won't read it, because I need to believe that somehow you'll know that I never forgot, and that if we meet again when we're grown up, I'll recognize you, because some friends you never forget. With a star for you, Peter. Haley broke down right there, sobbing. All those years, she had thought he had forgotten her easily, that he had moved on without a second thought, but he had waited. He had left notes. He had remembered. And now here she was, back, but lying about who she was, building a relationship on half-truths. It was wrong. So wrong. She returned to the inn in the middle of the night, the old notes clutched to her chest. She went into her room and grabbed the metal box where she kept the notes she had saved. She placed the new notes inside with the old ones. All the pieces of paper that told the story of two children who made promises they couldn't keep. But she was an adult now. She had choices, and the choice she had to make was to tell the truth, no matter the consequences, no matter if Peter was hurt that she had lied. He deserved to know. The next morning, Haley woke up determined. She had breakfast, got dressed, and went to the garage. It was Saturday, but she knew Peter would be there. He always was. She arrived to find him working on the Beetle. The car was almost finished. Another excuse that was running out. "Peter," she called. He slid out from under, the car wiping his hands on a rag. "Hey, well, I've got good news. Your car is ready. You can leave whenever you want." The words should have brought her relief, but they only brought panic. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave him. Not again. "Peter, I need to tell you something," she began. But before she could continue, Jessica stormed into the garage like a hurricane. And this time she wasn't just angry, she was triumphant. "Peter," she said with a cruel smile, "I think you and your new little friend will want to see this." She threw some papers onto the workbench. Peter picked them up, confused. As he read, his expression changed. Confusion, disbelief, anger. "You," he said, turning to Haley. "You're Haley Caldwell, the heiress to Caldwell Motors." Haley felt the floor drop out from under her. "How did you find out?" she asked Jessica. "It wasn't hard," she replied with a sneer. "A beautiful woman shows up out of nowhere, gets involved with my ex-husband, gets close to my daughter. I thought it was strange. I had Ryan do some digging, and guess what? You're rich. Filthy rich. And you were. Here playing poor, lying to everyone." Peter was looking at Haley as if she were a stranger. "Why?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Why did you lie?" "I can explain." "Explain that you're a millionaire who was having fun playing at being normal, that you thought it was funny to infiltrate the lives of simple people? It's not like that." "Then what is it?" he yelled, and Haley had never seen so much pain in his eyes. "Were you bored with your life of luxury and decided to play with ours?" "I came back because," she started, but her voice failed her. "Because what?" he pressed. "Because you're here," she said finally, tears streaming down her face. "Because I never forgot you. Because when I was a kid, you were my best friend, and I had to leave without saying goodbye. Because I kept all of our notes for 23 years. Because I came back to that gas station not by chance, but because it was the only place I had ever been truly happy." Peter stared at her, processing. "You're the girl," he whispered. "The girl from the tree." Yes. The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica watched it, all with satisfaction, as if she were watching a show she had orchestrated herself. Peter shook his head, taking a step back. "I need time," he said. "I need to process this." "Peter, please. Please, just go," he said, turning his back on her. Haley looked at Jessica, who was smiling victoriously. Then she looked at Peter, who wouldn't look at her anymore. And then, with her heart shattered into a million pieces, she walked out of the garage. She left, but she didn't leave town. Not yet. Because if she had learned anything in all those years, it was that some battles were worth fighting. And this love, this second chance, was worth every tear, every ache, every moment of uncertainty. She wouldn't give up. Not this time. Even if Peter didn't want to listen to her now, she would make him understand. She would make him see that it hadn't been a game, that it had always been real, always true, because childhood love doesn't die. It just waits. It waits until the right people at the right time are brave enough to start over. Haley spent 3 days in her room at the inn without the courage to go out, without knowing what to do. Mrs. Evans brought up trays of food that went back untouched. The kind woman didn't ask questions, just left gentle words and a maternal affection Haley hadn't received in years. On the 3rd day, when Haley finally managed to get out of bed, she found an envelope that someone had slipped under the door. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside was a drawing. It was from Laura. The little girl had drawn 3 figures: a tall man, a woman with long hair, and a small child in the middle. The 3 figures were holding hands. Underneath, in a child's careful handwriting, it said, "My real family, don't go, Aunt Haley." Haley broke down. She cried like she hadn't cried since she was a child. She cried for everything she had lost, for all the lies she had told, for all the wrong choices. But she also cried because that drawing showed that at least one person still believed in her. She showered, got dressed, and left the room for the first time in days. She had to do something. She had to at least try to fix what she had broken. Even if Peter never forgave her, she couldn't leave without a fight. Haley walked through town until she reached the garage. It was late Sunday afternoon. The garage was closed, but through the front window she could see a light on in the back. Peter was there. She knocked on the door. Nothing. She knocked again. Finally, the door opened. Peter stood in the doorway, his expression weary, his eyes swollen as if he hadn't slept either. "What do you want?" he asked, without hostility, just exhaustion. "I want you to listen to me, please. After that, if you want me to leave, I'll go, but just give me a chance to explain." Peter hesitated, then stepped aside to let her in. They went to the small office in the back, where he had a desk cluttered with papers and an old coffee maker. He didn't offer her coffee. He just crossed his arms and waited. Haley took a deep breath. "My name is Haley Caldwell. I'm the heiress to one of the biggest auto companies in the country. I grew up in New York City, but I spent every summer here with my grandparents. That's where I met you. I was 8. So were you." She paused, gathering the courage to continue. "We played in the town square every day. You showed me the hiding spot in the tree behind the gas station. We wrote notes, sealed them with drawn-on stars. You taught me how to climb trees. I taught you the names of all the parts of an engine. We promised to be friends forever." "And then?" Peter asked, his voice controlled. "And then my grandparents died. My parents said there was no reason to come to Franklin anymore. They ripped me out of here in the middle of the night without even letting me say goodbye. I cried for weeks. I wrote letters my parents never mailed. I kept every one of your notes like they were treasure, because to me they were. They were proof that there had been a place where I was just a normal girl with a normal friend, living a normal life." She took the metal box from her purse and placed it on the desk. She opened it and showed him the yellowed notes. "All of our notes," she said. "I never got rid of them. And when I found the ones you left after I was gone, I knew I had been a coward, that I should have fought harder to come back, that I should have found a way to let you know." Peter picked up a few of the notes, recognizing his own childish handwriting. His eyes filled with tears. "When my car broke down at that exact gas station," Haley continued, "I knew it was a sign. And when you showed up and didn't recognize me, I thought maybe it was for the best, that maybe I could have the simple life I always wanted without the weight of my last name. But I was wrong, wrong to lie, wrong to hide. You deserved the truth from the very beginning." "Why tell me now?" he asked. "Only because you got caught?" "No, I was ready to tell you before Jessica showed up with those papers, but she got there first. And I know that doesn't change the fact that I lied. But I need you to understand that my feelings were always real. Every moment with you, every conversation, every smile, none of that was a lie." Peter rubbed his face with his hands. "Do you have any idea what it was like growing up here? You left for your life of luxury with chauffeurs and butlers and who knows what else. I stayed. I lost my parents in an accident when I was 15. I had to drop out of school to work. I got married too young to the wrong person. I raised a daughter practically on my own. And then you show up, pretending to be someone you're not, making me feel things I was sure I'd never feel again. I know I hurt you." "You did, Haley. You hurt me a lot. Because I was starting to believe that maybe there was a second chance for me, that maybe I could be happy again." "And you can be," she said vehemently. "Peter, I gave everything up. I ran away from my life, my parents, my arranged marriage, because none of that was real. But this, you and me, Laura, this is real. This is what I want. "How can I trust you?" he asked, his voice broken. Haley moved closer to him. She took his hand, placed it over her chest, over her racing heart. "Feel this. This is real. My heart has been beating for you since I was 8 years old, and it kept beating for 23 years, even when I thought I'd never see you again. You want proof? I resigned from my position at the company. I sent an email to my parents telling them I'm not coming back. I sold my penthouse in the city. All I have now fits in one small suitcase and a metal box full of old notes." Peter looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the sincerity in her green eyes. He saw the woman who had been that brave little girl who climbed trees and wasn't afraid to get her hands greasy. He saw Haley, his Haley. "I never forgot you," he said finally. "Even without knowing who you were, my heart recognized you. Laura recognized you. It's like we were all waiting for you to come back all these years." "And I came back," she whispered. "I came back because this is my place, with you, with Laura, here." They looked at each other for a long moment, all the years of separation, all the hurt, all the misunderstandings suspended between them. And then Peter pulled her into a hug, a tight, desperate hug, like someone who has finally found what was lost. When they pulled apart, they were both crying and laughing at the same time. "There's something you need to know," Peter said. "The garage is in trouble. The landlord tripled the rent. I can't afford it. I'm going to have to close down." "Then don't," Haley said. "Make me your partner." "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity. It's a partnership, 50-50. I'll put up the capital. You bring the expertise. We'll turn this place into a real garage. Modern, but without losing its soul. And we'll work together, side by side." Peter hesitated. "And what if it doesn't work out? Between us?" "It will," she said with conviction. "Because this time, we're not kids anymore. We know what we want. And I want you. I want this life. I want to wake up every day and work beside you. I want to have dinner at the kitchen table with you and Laura. I want to grow old in this small town where I've finally found my home." Peter smiled. "Then I guess we have a deal." They sealed the agreement with a kiss that held 23 years of longing, of unkept promises, of destinies finally aligning. In the weeks that followed, a lot changed in Franklin. Haley made her stay in town official. She registered the partnership with Peter. Together, they renovated the garage, keeping the name Miller's Auto Repair, but adding modern equipment and expanding the business. Haley put her technical knowledge to use, proving to the community that she wasn't just some bored rich girl, but someone who truly understood and loved the work. Jessica tried to cause more trouble, threatening lawsuits and questioning Laura's time with Haley. But something unexpected happened. Ryan, the controlling boyfriend, showed his true colors. He started demanding a level of perfection from Jessica that she couldn't maintain. He wanted her to be the perfect mother, the perfect partner, all while treating her like an accessory. It was Laura, with her childish wisdom, who opened Jessica's eyes. During one of their weekend lunches, the girl simply asked, "Are you happy, Mommy?" And Jessica, for the first time in a long time, was honest. "No, sweetie, I'm not." "Then why don't you do things that make you happy?" the girl asked. That simple question triggered a series of changes. Jessica broke up with Ryan. She started therapy, and most importantly, she had a frank conversation with Peter. She admitted she had come back for the wrong reasons, that she wasn't ready to be a full-time mother, that she loved Laura, but she needed to learn to love herself first. They reached a more balanced agreement. Jessica would see Laura twice a month, in supervised visits until the girl felt comfortable. And Haley, with Peter's support, would become a constant presence in Laura's life. Not as a replacement for her mother, but as someone who genuinely cared. 6 months later, in the Franklin town square where it had all begun so many years ago, Peter knelt in front of Haley. Laura stood beside them, holding a bouquet of wildflowers she had picked herself. "Haley Smith Caldwell," Peter said, his voice thick with emotion, "you were my first friend, my first love, my first heartbreak. You left, but you came back. And this time, I'm not letting you get away. Will you marry me?" Haley, with tears streaming down her face, said yes. Yes to the proposal, yes to the simple life, yes to the love she had waited for so long. The wedding was simple, in that same town square with the whole town in attendance. Mrs. Evans cried. Mrs. Davis baked the cake. The garage's customers came to pay their respects to the couple who had become a symbol of new beginnings for so many. Laura was the flower girl, in a pink dress and a crown of flowers. During the ceremony, she drew. And when the bride and groom said their vows, she showed her drawing to everyone. 3 figures holding hands. A real family. Sealed not with a ring, but with stars drawn in each corner of the paper. Because some stories don't end. They just begin again. Like trees that seem dead in winter, but blossom in spring. Like childhood promises that turn into adult vows. Like loves that wait for the right time to finally happen. And so, in the town of Franklin, on a sunny November afternoon, 2 souls who had lost each other 23 years ago finally found each other again. No longer as children with secret notes, but as adults who had learned that true home isn't a place on a map. It's where the heart can rest. It's where, despite all the wounds and missed connections, love still finds a way to begin again. Peter and Haley walked through the square hand in hand, with Laura skipping between them. The garage was waiting for them tomorrow. Life was waiting for them. But in that moment, they were just 3 people who had finally found the place where they belonged. And that night, when everyone had gone home and the square was empty, Haley went back to the tree behind the abandoned gas station. In the secret hiding spot, she left one last note. It wasn't for Peter. It was for the girl she used to be. The girl who had left without saying goodbye. You came home, and he was waiting. Just like he always promised. Just like the stars promised. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for keeping the notes. Thank you for believing that some loves are eternal. With all my love, Haley. And she drew, one last time, a star. The same star she had drawn when she was 8 years old. The same star that now shone in the sky over Franklin, a silent witness to a love that had transcended time, distance, and all the lies that had nearly destroyed it. Because in the end, the truth always wins. And love, when it's true, always finds its way back home. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope the story of Haley and Peter has touched your heart. If you were moved, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what part resonated with you the most. Every day we bring you intense stories like this one, revealing the deepest side of the human soul. Let us know which city you're watching from, and share with us, do you believe in destined reunions? Have you ever had a second chance at love? We'll see you in the next episode with another story that will make your heart beat faster. See you soon.